the Countryside Podcasts with Chris Skinner.
Glorious September morning, and the air is, I think, what would you call it, Chris? Gin clear?
It's beautiful, Matthew, isn't it? A warm welcome to High Ash Farm. We're in the farmyard starting off this morning, so lots of tractor noises in the background, and we're standing underneath the old oak right in the middle of the farmyard. Very venerable, and it's got a cable on it to stabilise it, because we get some pretty violent winds up here at the farm, and just to save it falling on the buildings. And so it's getting a bit past its best is the best way to describe this oak. So it's one of the many oaks in the avenues all over High Ash Farm, and because of the sort of decaying wood in the middle of it, it's attracted some of the first sort of autumn fungi that you're likely to see. And this one's in the sunlight in the evening when the sun's coming in from the west. It's almost luminous, and it's called Sulphur polypore. That's its scientific name.
I'm just looking. Oh, you mean
this?
Oh, wow.
Yes, it looks as though sulphur, liquid sulphur, is pouring out of the tree.
It looks like it's leaking out, doesn't
yes.
it? Yeah, and it's coming all sort of bulbous shapes coming out. It's beautiful, really.
It is really stunning
and
to
it's
look
sort of
at.
Yellowy sulphur colour,
and it is almost luminous, so against the sort of dark bark of the old oak tree here, it's actually shining out beautifully. And it's got another really common name. It's called chicken of the woods, just because of its smell and texture as well. So it can break a little bit off because it's quite big and it's very flexible. It feels exactly like chicken meat when you get hold of it.
It looks like it as well, doesn't it?
And it has got, if I pass it over, it's got a very slight sort of aroma smell to it. But look at this, you can actually peel it and it just looks like the texture of chicken.
This looks all sinewy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's really unusual, and this is really common. The main host is, in fact, what this one's growing on. It's on oak trees. Occasionally you'll see it on cherry and sometimes on sweet chestnut, but this is its main host, and it'll grow like this. It keeps coming out and forming these lovely sort of lines all the way around on the new growth. It's almost lime green to yellow, and then after a week or two, the older parts of the fungus on the top, it's gone quite hard there. You can almost tap it like that, and it's getting hard, and once it goes white, it becomes inedible. Although I say to everybody, don't eat fungi at all unless you're 100% certain of what you're eating, because obviously some of them are extremely toxic. Anyway, this one is in perfect condition, and I'm just going to leave it because people will try and remove the fruiting bodies because this is one of the symbols of a tree that's in trouble, really.
Is it dangerous for this tree?
Yes, this particular fungus species, together with some of the others, things like honey fungus, are quite dangerous and quite invasive on trees, but you can't control them. The damage is a mycelium, or mycelium, some people describe it, which is all the little fungal threads and strands that inhabit the centre of the tree, and this is just the fruiting body. This is the time of the year when we get to kind of autumn where they spread their spores, and that's what this one's doing. So on the underside of these big bracts that are pouring out like liquid sulphur, the spores will come out underneath and go off in the air and infect some other tree some distance away, and it might be 3 or 4 years before you see the fruiting body, because mycelium is like that. It's the fungal threads, if you like, almost microscopic, that are right through the base of this tree, and lots of fungi species are really invasive on trees, and they will kill living trees, particularly the honey fungus. Armillaria malea is the scientific name of that one, and that's common as well. And sometimes you'll see sort of hoof fungus, and this one can have another name as well. Some people call it a razor strop fungus, which has got another close relation, and it is used to be believed once it's gone hard and white and dry like that, you could actually use it to sharpen your barber's cutthroat razor, hence razor strop fungus. So
Hence getting into a strop.
Yes, yeah, exactly, which is a sort of a temper. Yes, that was one of my nicknames at college, Strop. I don't know quite how I got that, but
Stroppy.
I was always very mild-mannered, especially with the tutors. Yes. Anyway, what I'd just like to do is just stand up, and that's something everybody can watch out for out in the countryside where you're walking.
This is chicken fungus right at the base of this very old oak tree.
Yeah, so it's called chicken of the woods, is its common name, because it is edible and because of the texture and the colour of it in the evening sun is just stunning. Anyway, I just want to pop into the stables here because this is almost a final goodbye of our swallows. We've reared over 100 youngsters here. Stables are being cleaned out at the moment. And if we just lean against the wall at the back, several of the swallows just come in and gone. All right, there's a nest right above your head.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah, there they go. So they're the parent swallows, because the weather is really amiable for the swallows coming in. That one's just come in and fed. It's a 1-second visit.
How many families are in here then?
There's been 20 families, 20 successful nests.
Just in this one set of stables?
Why I've brought you in, this one just come in on top of the light there, and it's just going to come in and feed the youngsters, and out of the window at the far end. So it's a 1-second visit. Most of the nests have 4 youngsters in. And there's another one just come in, feeding the babies, just down at the end here. There they are, and gone.
You gave me a centre parting, that one.
Yes. And so they're all busy feeding out on the pastures, because there's lots of flying insects at the moment. Another one right above your head. There's the youngster out of the nest, 3 feet from your head. Just absolutely amazing.
Everywhere they can find in these joists,
yes,
they will put a nest.
Yes,
and you've helped them with some platforms.
That's what happened. Yes, so I put some false nests in. They're gregarious, really. They actually like being together, although they will nest in a solitary situation. But they're only here for another couple of weeks. So these youngsters that are in the nest that are being fed, the 3rd brood. So we've reared over 100 youngsters, which is a real conservation success here.
Because the weather's been fine, the food has been relatively plentiful.
Yes, and the heat, I've sort of countered that, because we've had young swallows bailing out of their nests in the past, and the modern stable block, which had single sort of felt roofing on it, got very hot. It was onduline, sort of corrugated roof, and I put a 2nd roof over the top of it with a big gap in between. And we've more or less done away with any bailouts, so when you get that really hot weather where it goes above 30 degrees for a few days, the swallows actually can cope with it, but it's just the intense heat for the youngsters.
This block has got the very best roof you can get, hasn't it?
Oh, it has. It's a pantile roof, and then felt underneath, and then lots of beams and airy space in it. But they're all coming in, the parents are coming in, nests everywhere still, and it just brings a huge smile to your face. In fact, it's almost unique, this number of swallow nests and the number of young that have been reared, and that's partly, I daren't tell the girls why the horses are here, because of all the pasture around the farm means you have horse droppings. Horse droppings on the grass means you have the flies. Flies are the aerial plankton that the swallows are feeding on.
So generally where you find horses, you quite often find in the summer swallows or house martins.
Yes, that's right. But they're a declining species, particularly house martins. The numbers are dropping. But look, we've got 2 or 3 people in the stable mucking out and sweeping, and there's 3 or 4 swallows flying around above our head. They seem quite tolerant of the horses and interference and us talking right underneath the nest, but it's just fabulous. That was an alarm call. Probably saw me throwing my arms around like an idiot, but it's time for them to go at the end of this month, September. These young will be heading down by themselves, without the parents with them, across the channel, right through France, down the east coast of Spain, cross the Mediterranean at that point, Tunisia, and then right down into South Africa, sort of where the gold mines are. A cool 5,000 miles for something that's only just a few weeks old. You can't make it up, can you? So there we are, a little final celebration. They're all right above your head. There, and a quick feed and gone.
They're such expert flyers, though. There's the doorway, which isn't bigger than a normal door, much bigger, and they're straight in and out of there like missiles.
And then there's a window at the end there. Another 2 nests being fed simultaneously right above your head, and peels back out again. Anyway, I think we better get out of the way, or we'll both end up in a wheelbarrow here. Yes. Right, just a quick final farewell to this year's third brood of swallows. Fabulous.
Now you better go and make your peace with Rat.
Yes, I have. I've left him in the truck. Yes. There'll be all sorts of complaints.
Swallows flying into one of the large barns at High Ash Farm, feeding their young. This is one of the big conservation success stories I know you're very proud of.
Just brings a huge delight. 4 youngsters just waiting for mum and dad.
The podcast aims to bring you sights and sounds like this every week, and we're very thankful of your support. So any donations or subscriptions are very welcome indeed.
All we need is a little bit of extra help. It just keeps it going from week to week.
Monthly or one-off subscriptions, whatever the size, and the website highashfarm.com/podcast.
6 youngsters right above our head, all with their gates wide open.
Wade out into this field of, the predominant site here, Chris, is all your wonderful sunflowers.
Matthew, because of the dry weather early on in the year, it was not possible to sort of sow all the overwinter wild bird seed mix plants, because they would have just laid week after week on the dry soil. It was really parched dry, so I knew that nothing would germinate, so that would have given High Ash Farm rooks, jackdaws and all the small birds just free entry into the field. So what you need to do is sow the field and hope and pray that you get the forecast exactly right on time. We're being sworn at by a carrion crow in the background there. And so I had to delay planting, which normally would be towards the end of April. And there's a mixture of cereals, wheat, barley, triticale, which I've talked about before. But I also put in some other plants as well, which have oily seeds. Things like linseed, which is very oily, grows low down in the crop. That's just about finished flowering now. Brilliant blue flowers. Borage as well grows here. And the tallest one of them all is the sunflower here. There's some here still in flower. Also another species altogether called perennial sow thistle. And that's spreading its seeds as well, rather like dandelions spread their seeds off into the distance.
It's the same yellow as the sunflower.
Exactly, it looks like a miniature sunflower, but the sunflower heads, because of this dry weather we're still having here in Norfolk, they'll finish their flowering cycle and then the seeds will form. They're quite deep rooted, really good for bees. I can see a honeybee on the one right beside us on the sunflower head, gathering the pollen and any nectar. They're all really well trained at High Ash. All the sunflowers are facing eastwards, and really quite a spectacular sight. So they'll be producing a lot of oily seeds. The seed heads then hang downwards. We don't harvest this crop at all, and that then provides really good high quality natural food. But I know sunflowers aren't native, but nevertheless it does the job over the winter months for a whole variety of different bird species. But this field has been in winter wild bird seed mix for a number of years now, and some of the old native plants have somehow crept back in from where I don't know, but there's some really interesting and really beautiful wildflowers growing down around our feet. So if we just look down in the crop a little bit, I'll go down. It's a bit damp this morning because it's still early morning. Rats been touring around in the understory, and this is the first one that we come to here, and I'm going to introduce you to a new word. It's called whorl, but it's not W-H-I-R-L, it's W-H-O-R-L. And these flowers on this particular plant, which is field mint, form a whorl around the stalk. And a whorl, the technical name for it, is either flowers or leaves growing right round the stem of a plant, all in one level. So that's what it means. And there are food plants which you grow in your garden which will also produce a whorl of seeds and flowers. And this one is really aromatic. So on High Ash Farm we've got about 6 or 7 different species of mint, and on the way here I popped into the local pond, what we call the Frogs Pond at the farm, and I picked this one, which is Mentha aquatica, and that's water mint, and that plant is over 1 metre tall, and it's coming up in amongst the bulrushes, and it's in flower at the moment. You can see the flowers go right round the stem. So that's Mentha aquatica.
It's almost like a flower arrangement.
It is. It's really beautiful, isn't it? And great as well for aquatic insects all around the edge of the pond as well. It will actually have its feet in water sometimes. This one's, many people would be familiar with it, although it grows in hedges on the farm. It's called spearmint. And that's the one that people grow in their gardens, and you can put perhaps in a cocktail, take the leaves off if you want to be really posh. If you just crush the leaf a little bit, you'll have a different sort of smell altogether.
Oh, yes.
Very clean and clearing. It's really lovely, actually. You can put it in salads, but it's grown wild out on the farm. And then the third one is the one we started to talk about, Mentha arvensis. They've all got mentha in the start of their name.
Mint.
Mint. Mentha is mint, if you like, yes. So this is quite common on this field, but it's a plant that's really declined hugely out in the countryside. Modern agricultural chemicals and have really seen it off. And it's a plant that kind of likes not really drought-stricken soil, so because we're on quite heavy clay where we're kneeling, it's really thriving. It's right through the crop here, and just part the cereal stems and look down into it, and there's another beautiful example. So later on today I'll get Laura Cuffin. I have to ring her up nearly every week, and I can wait for the pause down the other end of the phone when I say, please could you come and photograph some species of mint for us. And she said, well, I knew you were well minted, but not with all of that variety. So she's taken the some really close-up shots with her macro lens of the field mint as an example of that particular flowering habit which this mint has, the whorl.
And they've all got these attractive sort of purple flowers,
yes,
really, aren't they?
Yeah.
Violet flowers.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is mints, when they're flowering like this, I'm holding the field mint in my hand.
It's incredible how the whorl goes all the way around the stalk.
Exactly
there,
that. If I turn it slowly, it's where the leaves actually join the stalk, but the flowers are all the way round and form sort of tiers, so where the next pair of leaves come out further up the stem, another whorl of flowers there. It's a lovely word, so you can look it up in a dictionary, or if you've got a wildflower book, it's a proper botanical term that describes this sort of circle of flowers. And the beauty of it is mints stay open at night, so they're not only just attractive to insects that are day flying, but also to night flying insects as well, and particularly moths. So really interesting plant. And right beside it is an almost even more beautiful one. I'll put this mint there. Just fold that out of the way. And there's lots of it growing here in amongst the understory. Here's one. It's just part the cereals. Oh, just look there. Perfect. That's called marsh woundwort. We got two sorts of woundworts growing on the farm. Hedge woundwort, which we looked at perhaps a month ago on a different podcast, and this one's now coming into flower. And what it's doing here is, because the soil is clay and it's really poorly drained, and for some reason the marsh woundwort has found its way here, but it wouldn't normally be its natural habitat for it. So I've got one in my hand here. You can see the leaves are quite narrow, and its cousin hedge woundwort has quite broad leaves. The leaves on this particular one are quite, it looks like the edge of a saw blade or a lance-shaped leaf. Really, really beautiful. And at the top of it's coming into flower, we've got another whorl. That word again, where the flowers completely surround the stem in a circle, quite close, and it's not until you look at closely. So again, that'll be a little job for Laura this afternoon with a macro lens on this one. The only way to describe the flowers is orchid-like. They are just stunningly beautiful.
And the little drop petals there.
Yes, there's a lower lip which is almost split in the middle. There's a little line going up, and there's little white dots on it. It's sort of deep pink in colour, and a little hood over the top. Really attractive to insects, and it's called woundwort for a reason, because the Greeks, the scientific name is stachys, which just means a spike, and it describes the top of the plant that forms a sort of pyramidal spike, and that's a Greek word. And the Greeks certainly used it for healing wounds, although it has got antiseptic qualities today, but we use much more modern methods of controlling problems with skin and wounds, and much far more effective. But this is the old one. We don't use it anymore medicinally, but it still kept that word of woundwort, which you would use for treating wounds and abrasions. And in the past it was boiled up, and you'd actually smear the sort of gel that comes from the plant on either the burn or the affected area, and it formed a natural healing because of its antiseptic qualities. Rat has just seen somebody's walking past with a big notepad recording bird species on the farm, I think, so he's allowed to bark at that.
But lovely close-ups and really loving images.
Yes,
coming up.
We hope.
Facebook.
On this Sunday's podcast on High Ash Farm Facebook, you can actually see these particular plants we're talking about. It's one of those things, because of the height of the crop, is basically it's 2 feet with the cereals, and then the sunflowers are way up over, so you have the impression of the sunflowers, but what you don't see is this understory with these little rare, and well, they're becoming quite rare, really stunningly beautiful plants that have all these secrets in the past. But it's not until you see their beauty that they'll sort of rival any of the orchid species, and it's just so easy to miss them.
I was going to say, how did you find them, Chris?
Well, I've been trained to look for weeds, remember, in order to kill them, and it just hit me. I was looking down through the crop into how the cereals are actually doing. You can see ears of barley here, and I can pull an ear off and just give that a rub, get the orms all off it, and it's produced really good quality grain. So the question is, should I be a farmer going back to producing cereals, which I knew so well inside and out and loved growing it? But when I stopped arable farming in 2006, all those years ago, combine went down the farmyard for sale, and I did have to shed a tear, I've confessed to before. The price I was getting back then, around about £150 a tonne, and today it's almost identical, which tells me I did the right thing way back then to come out of commodity production because of the variable soil types on the farm. But it's such a glorious sight, and I suppose this is my crop, my reward is to have plants like this coming back into the countryside. This is their place, their home, they're safe here. But you can't really rival the beauty of them.
And my fingers now smell like mint imperials.
Yes, as I said, I'm a well-minted farmer with a minimum of 4 species of different mints on the farm. There's about a dozen species altogether. Many of them are crossbreds. Apple mint is another one that people will grow in their gardens, but it's a perennial, as is the marsh woundwort here. It will come back year after year, and the field mint as well, Mentha arvensis, will also come back year after year. It's a perennial, so it's established here now. So when the crop is all gone and it's reseeded in 2026, there'll be another display of these beautiful natural wildflowers.
Just driven 100 yards into a different field, and now we're right on the border of the field here, and this wonderful thick bushy hedge with so much life in it, and you've got some sloes drooping from the tree, and also blackberries as well. They look really good enough to eat.
They certainly are, Matthew. You've got the eye for food, haven't you? And so you're quite right. It's absolutely a glorious, glorious time. This hedge was cut last year, and each year we're getting our hedges a little bit wider and a little bit taller, so they're forming brilliant windbreaks, as well as fantastic nesting habitat. So a good hedge is like a wildlife corridor. It's like our motorways to get us out and about in the countryside, but done for wildlife. And we've reinstated a lot of the hedges that were lost in the 1970s. So we've got over 25 miles of hedge on this farm, and we've just started cutting them. Because many of the hedges are right beside permissive walks or public footpaths, and people say, oh, why are you cutting them now? And that's because the tractor weighs 7 tonnes, the hedger about 2 tonnes, all set off to one side, and you can make horrendous wheel marks on all our lovely permissive walks. So we get most of the cutting done now, which you can do from the 1st of September.
Because the ground is dry.
If the ground is dry and dry only. But this is turning into a brilliant late season for butterflies. Lots of the common native ones. I've seen lots and lots of common butterflies this week. Several of the farm's peacock butterflies, most of which, because it's still early morning, are still having their kip under the bridge on the farm, and I checked that yesterday. 31 butterflies all together in a close ball. It's an amazing sight, and some of our continental butterflies are arriving by the minute. We've got clouded yellows down in the valley, out on the birdsfoot trefoil and the lucerne, and if we just walk along nice and slowly, there's some ivy in this hedge which is being allowed to form and thicken up, and if we just go slowly along, here's one.
Oh, look at that.
Just what I wanted to see. Perfect. And it's feasting on the ivy. And this week, the end of the first week of September, bang on time, is the week the ivy comes into flower. These kind of drum heads all over the trees on the farm here. You can see them. And it's perfect fodder for this little fellow here in front of us. And it's a red admiral, and wings open, just the sun's just come round onto this side of the hedge.
Lovely flash of red on the wings there.
Yes, it's actually orange, isn't it? But when this butterfly was named, there wasn't a name for orange, hence red kite. It's an orange kite, one of the birds, and this one, we call it the red admiral, but it's actually the orange admiral, and it's nothing to do with sailing prowess or admiral. It's a derivation of the name, is admirable. So it's all our sort of early botanists named the most flamboyant species with really flamboyant names. Peacock, obviously, admiral, and the comma, just because it has a little white comma on the underside of the wings when the wings are shut. That's native. But this is probably a migrant. It's probably come up from southern France. The temperatures down in southern Europe have been well up in the 40s, late 30s, early 40 degrees in centigrade. And the native plants down there haven't done their usual thing and yielded lots of nectar. It was so hot, so dry, so arid that...
Was that a hornet?
Yeah, there's a hornet just come in. And I noticed the admiral was flashing his wings in and out very quickly when the hornet got a bit too close. But most of the hornet's actually looking for easy prey to catch, to take back to the nest, which is probably the one I found is down in the valley there, right by one of the permissive walks.
And they'd take a butterfly, would they?
They absolutely would take a butterfly, which is why that one flashed its wings and said, don't come near me, there'll be trouble if you do. But the hornet is quite capable of catching that, snipping the wings off. The long antennae that we can see out the front would be snipped off as well, and it would carry the butterfly's body, it sounds a bit gruesome, underneath it, clasped with its legs, rather like a torpedo underneath a flying boat kind of thing. But this butterfly got its wings shut at the moment. We can see the camouflage underneath the wings, same as our peacock butterflies that are they're not hibernating at the minute, they're waiting for the warmth of the sun.
The other side of the wings looks like burnt parchment.
It does.
And that's what we see when we go under your bridge.
Yes, yeah. The butterflies, when they hibernate over the winter, they want to be as kind of invisible as possible, so they close their wings, and that was almost complete camouflage. And this butterfly looks as though the camouflage comes halfway up the wings, on the underside of the wings, and just showing a little bit of colour. But every few moments the butterfly opens its wings and kind of, though it's almost sort of solar powered, but what it's doing, it's drinking the nectar from the very first ivy drumheads that are coming into flower. So lots of people walk on high ash, and one of the most frequent questions I get, how have you got so many insects, and particularly butterflies, at the farm? And the answer, almost without fail, is the fact we've got ivy all over the farm. And I notice some of the new arrivals at the village who are very welcome, got new houses out in the countryside. There might be some old oaks down the end of their garden, and they cut the ivy through as though it's some sort of parasite. But if I had to name a particular plant that grows at high ash that provides the most sort of habitat through the year, it would be ivy. Hedera, the scientific name, our tallest stem twiner. And early spring, it's fantastic for birds to nest in. It's complete sort of cover. Over the summer, it grows and produces these drumheads, so it provides late summer, early autumn, the last proper nectar flow of the year. And during the winter, when you have a deciduous wood, there's no cover in it. So one of our small areas of woodland, it's called Woodcock Wood, about 4 acres, coming up for 2 hectares actually, nearly 5 acres. Most of the trees in that wood have ivy on them, and that's the place on High Ash Farm to see birds at late evening coming in to roost and hiding in the ivy. And it's also the hibernation place for some of our butterfly species. There's one butterfly, one of the first that you'll see in the spring, called the brimstone. Its wings, wait for it, are actually shaped like an ivy leaf, and it hibernates in ivy over the winter as an adult. And this one is really spoiling us, despite Rat having to, I think somebody's walking or riding a horse the other side of the hedge, which we can't see, but Rat's sixth sense has said there's somebody there. Come here.
Rat says invaders.
The invaders.
Luckily, the butterfly doesn't seem that bothered.
No, it's not been fazed by all this
Or when
barking.
you can put up with a hornet flying past.
Yes, exactly, something that might kill you. But that's just stunning when that butterfly opens its wings. But there's a fair chance it was bred in the UK, but its parents came up in early spring from southern Europe. But there's now some evidence, because of warming, that butterflies like this red admiral right in front, it's just opened its wings now for us. are spending our winter hibernating here and surviving the winter months. Very few have been found, but there's some evidence that they're now getting through the winter because of the recent mild winters that we've had. So there we are. If you want the answer to the butterflies at High Ash Farm, it's this plant in front of us. There's bees, there's a spider, there's a fly here, all over it. It's doing its job. It's not a parasite of trees. The only disadvantage if you're a forester and you've got to fell a tree, you have to strip the ivy off to get to the timber. And also, if ivy gets right up into the canopy, the deciduous tree in the winter that normally lets the wind pass through harmlessly, then it can kind of form a sail effect and snap bits of the tree off in high gales, which we're having more and more frequently. But nevertheless, the ivy's spared at the farm. I'm enjoying this butterfly and the nectar. It's glorious to see, and that's how you look after. After all, ivy is a British native. It belongs here and should have every right to be here, just as we have.
Got some questions to answer, Chris?
Yep, I think we should get to the back of the truck, let the tailgate down, and just see what this week's post bag has delivered.
Farmer's Bureau desk.
The tailgate of the truck.
Melissa Smart is tuned in stateside.
Yes.
In fact, here we are in Old England.
Yes.
And Melissa lives in New England, in New Hampshire, in a wonderfully named place called Contacook.
Yes, amazing. USA, all that way, all that distance across the Atlantic. So, good morning, Melissa, from a sunny Norfolk.
And she says, I so enjoy all of the podcasts. You provide such depth in each topic you share, and your enthusiasm for the natural environment warms my heart. Thank you for sharing the farm and all its gifts with us. Best to you and all the creatures on High Ash.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it's just a weekly pleasure. It's something that I really look forward to now. And I thought when we started the podcast, getting on for 2 years ago, that there wouldn't be enough topics to keep it fresh and vibrant. And I've been proved completely wrong. Nature does it all for us to share and enjoy.
Now let's go to Wicklow in the Republic of Ireland. Tom Gallatley. Enjoy your podcast and your previous programmes as well. Just wondering what your opinion is of the continued use of lead shot by people who shoot.
We covered this a little bit about 2 podcasts ago with the mute swan that's on the farm lake, and I was explaining as it was upending, the water is quite shallow in the middle of the lake. It was about a metre and a half deep, and the swan, and I think it's still on High Ash Farm Facebook video, was upending and actually filtering the mud for any aquatic organisms or any weeds that are growing on the bottom of the lake. So it was reaching right down well into the water, over a metre beneath it. It's quite a fantastic sight to see. And swans filtering the mud will pick up little bits of grit and actually swallow it, because birds don't have teeth, so they have to have grit in their diet to grind up some of the food, particularly if they're eating grain. It helps to grind up. Chickens are the same. And the swan, if it's in water that's been shot over, the lead, of course, obviously doesn't rust. It stays for a long, long time. It's got a huge long life. A 12-bore shotgun cartridge can have perhaps 100 or 150 lead pellets in it. So every time you shoot over water, the lead goes and drops into the water. Now, don't get me wrong, lead is a brilliant ammunition. It's heavy, it has a good travelling distance, and because of its weight, it also has a good killing ratio. The alternative is the new steel shot. Now, steel is rather different. It's much, much lighter, so it doesn't have the same shooting distance, and it also drops quicker as well. And the other thing it does with particularly older firearms, it will scour the barrels, whereas lead is quite shot, so it can cause damage to the firearms barrels. But the problem is, in Norfolk particularly, we're quite close to Broadland, where we've got huge stretches of open water, some of which are used by wildfowlers for shooting and have been for centuries, and they've been using lead shot. And of course the lead, it goes down to the bottom and is still in the water. And when some of our aquatic wildfowl, things like the swan we were just talking about, filters the mud in its beak, swallows the lead shot thinking it's grit, and it stays in the gizzard of the bird and gradually releases its chemicals that was in the lead, and that can cause the swan's necks to distort horribly, and it's actually fatal in the long run. So there is a kind of voluntary ban on use of lead shot, but many wildfowlers are still choosing to use lead as the preferred form of ammunition just because of its superior qualities. And I think the voluntary portion should now be removed, and it should now be compulsory not to be allowed to use lead shot anymore, and that's where I stand at the moment.
While you're talking about that email, just enjoying a wonderful sight. It's gone away now, but a buzzard planing over the field over there.
Yes, they've been nesting at the end of this hedge that we're on. In fact, next week we might do a bit of bird nesting. Now, in next week's podcast, now the birds have deserted their nests, and we've got some super examples of wood pigeons' nests and buzzard nests, and so it's a good time to walk about. And I've just started looking for the first harvest mice nests, which might still be occupied on some of the wild margins there at the farm. And talking about big changes out in the countryside at this time of the year, I had a bit of a shock on Saturday morning, and a gentleman walked up the farmyard with a big pair of binoculars around his neck and I said, "Good morning," and he said, "Ah, Mr. Skinner, I recognise the voice." And he'd come all the way across to Norfolk from the Netherlands equivalent of the RSPB, the Royal Society Protection of Birds, and he said, "I'd just love to see your swallows. Would you do me the honour of showing me?" And I took him into the stables. It was almost tearful for him. He saw more swallows in 1 minute than he's seen in the Netherlands in the last 3 years, and that brought a huge smile to my face, and that's what we enjoyed at the beginning of this week's podcast.
For people who aren't familiar with Norfolk, Holland really is just over the sea from us, and,
Yes.
and there's so many Flemish influences here in the architecture, and I mean there's hands across the sea really here, isn't it? We're like brothers and sisters.
Yes, certainly. And before the North Sea was properly formed, I think they were importing flint axe heads from the Netherlands, particularly the Low Countries and the polders there, some of which were reclaimed from the sea in recent decades. And there was trade going across the North Sea. They really are our partners, and I still feel we should be joined to Europe as one big land block.
I'll try and fill in the North Sea for you. I think
okay,
that might not be so good for the fish. I shouldn't
No,
think.
probably not.
To finish, a lovely image from the Wildman Woods on our Facebook site's been sent through. Lovely display of purple flowers, vipers, bugloss, seeded around our farmhouse, this message says. Hundreds of them. They grow so huge they look like delphiniums. A huge drift of beautiful flowers covered with bees. And I'd tell our campers they're welcome to take seeds. Always happy to share the bee love.
Excellent. That's the sort of email we like to finish with. And of course we covered Viper's bugloss in last week's podcast, and that's the stimulation for this wonderful picture that's come through. Stunning cobalt blue with the bright pink anthers and stamens on the plant. What a cracking plant. Viper, it's bugloss. Bugloss comes from the old Greek word of ox tongue because it's prickly and bristly all over, and so just incredible. And thank you everybody who contributes to the podcast by sending us questions and comments. They're always welcome, and we read all of them. We don't always have time to answer everybody's, but to be honest, it's a huge pleasure in doing this each week.